Hello class, welcome to Full Syllabus channel. Today we are going to do the next practicals and the question related to them. So the practical which I have taken is estimation of nickel by EDTA method. It is alike or similar to the practical which we have discussed in lecture number 1, that is the lecture about hardness of water sample. There we are using EDTA solution to titre or to know the hardness of the solution in which calcium and magnesium ions are present. Here we are estimating nickel by the same method. So EDTA basically interact with the metal ion in the same way as it was interacting in that experiment, but the indicator used here is a little different. Okay class, so the first question for this type of titration is, what is the principle behind the titration? As we discuss always, what is the principle behind what we are doing? The principle behind this titration is complexometric titration that you have studied in that experiment also. In this titration, nickel form a yellow colored complex with the indicator, and the indicator used in this titration is muric oxide. Muric oxide basically form a yellow colored compound with nickel, which is then titered with EDTA, and this EDTA forms a stable nickel EDTA complex which liberates the muric oxide indicator, and this indicator is blue in color. Okay, so the reaction is stopped when blue color is achieved. Now the next question for this titration is, draw the structure of EDTA and nickel EDTA complex. As you know, this is the structure of EDTA. EDTA is ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid having 2 nitrogens, diamine, and 4 tetraacetic acid. So this is the structure of EDTA, and EDTA is then complexed with nickel, and this kind of complex is formed which is known as nickel EDTA complex, and this complex is formed at a pH 9 to 10. So a pH buffer is also added in the titration. Okay class, now as I told you, the pH is added to this titration, pH buffer is added to this titration. So my next question is, what is the role of the buffer in this titration? As in the last experiment which I was talking about is hardness, in that experiment also buffer is added to maintain the pH. For that pH, the metal EDTA and the metal indicator complexes are stabler or are better stable than the other pH ranges. Hence the buffer is added to the titrant solution. Okay, so the next question is, what is the end point of the titration? The end point of the titration means the change in color of the titration. The color changes from yellow to violet. The yellow color corresponds to metal muric oxide, that is nickel muric oxide complex, and the violet color means the muric oxide is now free and it shows its own color, that is violet. Now the next question is, name the indicator used. As we have talked about much now, it's muric oxide. You should know the spelling also, muric oxide. The spelling is very important. Now the next question is, write the equation involved. The equation involved is almost the same except the metal ion is changed and the indicator is changed. Rest the pH range is same and the complexing agent EDTA is same. Nickel reacts with muric oxide at the pH and form a yellow colored complex, that is nickel muric oxide complex. This yellow colored complex is titered via EDT, that is the burette, at the same pH buffer which form nickel EDTA complex, and free muric oxide is seen as violet color solution. So when you achieve violet color, you stop the reaction. It indicates that the reaction is completed now. Now the next question is, how standardization of EDTA is performed. First of all, a primary solution has to be prepared. A primary standard solution of MgSO4 is prepared, and from it 20 ml of MgSO4 is pipetted out. To this 20 ml we add EBT. It is the same kind of titration which we have done in hardness. We are using EBT indicator here, not muric oxide, because MgSO4, that is Mg2 plus ion, form a better complex with EBT indicator, and after adding 5 ml buffer and EBT indicator, here metal EBT complex will be formed, and you know the color is wine red. right? The solution color is wine red. This wine red solution is now titrated against EDTA solution until this wine red color changes to blue, that is a free EBT. That equation you can go and visit in lecture 1, hardness experiment. Repeat the titration till you get 3 concordant readings, you know that. So the standardization or the normality of EDTA can be calculated by normality of MgSO4, which is known to you as you have prepared the solution yourself. Volume of MgSO4, that is you have used as 20 ml, divided by volume of EDTA, and this you can see from the burette. So from this way you can calculate the normality of EDTA. So now your EDTA is standardized and you can use it for further titration, that is for estimating the presence of nickel, the amount of presence of nickel in the solution, any unknown solution. Now the next question in the titration is how nickel estimation is done. So for nickel estimation, you pipette out nickel solution 20 ml. This solution is of unknown concentration to you. You add 5 ml buffer solution as you added in the standardization titration also, and here the indicator is changed from EBT. Now you are taking Muroxide indicator. This indicator will form a nickel Muroxide complex that is yellow in color and less stable than nickel EDTA complex, because as you know in that titration also we have studied about it, that metal EDTA, as EDTA is hexadentate in nature, it forms a very stable chelate complex as compared to metal indicator complex. If you are taking EBT, that is also less stable than metal EDTA. If you are taking Muroxide, that is also less stable than metal EDTA complex. So this solution is titrated against standardized EDTA solution that you have standardized by yourself, as we have studied the last question also. And now this color change, we will look for yellow, that is yellow to violet. Yellow stands for, yellow color is for the metal Muroxide complex, and violet is for the free Muroxide that is present in the solution now after the titration has been formed with EDTA. This titration is repeated to get the concordant values. And now how the calculation is done. Normality of EDTA into volume of EDTA equals to normality of nickel into volume of nickel. You want to know the normality of nickel solution, so it will be equals to normality of EDTA into volume of EDTA divided by volume of nickel solution. This normality is calculated by standardization of EDTA with MgSO4. This volume you can see from the burette how much EDTA is consumed. The volume of nickel solution you have used is 20 ml. So the strength can be calculated by normality of nickel solution into the atomic mass of nickel, that is 58.7. The unit will be in grams per liter. The amount of the value that will be coming out from this will be that much gram of nickel is present in 1 liter of your solution, of your unknown solution. That was it with this practical. Now we will be switching over to the next practical, that is determination of dissolved oxygen in water sample. This procedure is also known as Winkler's method. In Winkler method, first of all, the first question, as I always ask, is what is the principle behind this titration? The principle behind this titration is hydrometry, or this type of titration is called hydrometric titration. It basically determines the concentration of oxidizing agent. In this case, the oxidizing agent which we want to determine is dissolved oxygen, the amount of or the concentration of dissolved oxygen present in the solution or in our water sample. So what hydrometry basically do? In hydrometry, it is an indirect titration of iodine that is related by the reaction with analyte. Analyte again in our case is oxygen. So we liberate iodine from a iodide ion with the help of an analyte, that is oxygen in our case, and starch is added as an indicator. Iodine which is liberated now basically form a complex with starch that is blue black in color, and when you titer it against a reducing agent, this blue black color disappears because the iodine get reduced to iodide. Okay class, this is the principle behind hydrometry. More equation wise you will learn in later of this lecture. See, now there are two terms, iodometric and iodimetric. The difference between these two type of titration is now we will be doing that. One side I have written iodometric, other side I have written iodimetric. Iodometric is qualitative analysis of a solution. Basically, a solution which has oxidizing agent. You want to quantify the oxidizing agent present in any solution, right? So what you do, you add a iodide to it. This iodide react with the oxidizing agent and convert to iodine, which is tighter against the reducing agent, that is hypo solution in our case. And in iodimetry, you use a standardized solution of iodine and directly titer it with the reducing agent, right? It basically uses free iodine to titer against the reducing agent. It uses iodide ion which reacts with the oxidizing agent in acidic or neutral medium. This liberate iodine which is tighter against the reducing agent. So here the iodine is liberated in the vessel in situ. Here free iodine, standardized iodine is used for titration. That means iodine is getting liberated somewhere and you are directly titrating it. Here you are liberating iodine with the help of an oxidizing agent which you want to quantify. Okay class. Now the next question to this titration is why we add Ki to the mixture. As I told you above, iodide ion is added so that the oxidizing agent can oxidize iodide to iodine and which we can quantify with the help of a titration. And the second purpose of adding Ki is that the iodide ion that is present in Ki will react with I2 and fix it in the solution by making a triiodide ion. This ion basically get soluble in water as compared to I2, as I2 has hydrophobic interactions with water. So to increase its solubility and form iodide ion, triiodide ion, Ki is added to the solution. This is the second use of adding Ki to the mixture. As you can see, this is an equilibrium reaction. So the iodine can be liberated very easily out from this. The next question to this titration is how standardization of hypo solution or sodium thiosulfate, same thing, is performed. First of all, you prepare a primary standard of K2Cr2O7, that is potassium dichromate. Primary standard of potassium dichromate is prepared. 20 ml of this solution is pipetted out. You add 5 ml of conc H2SO4. In acidic media, it is very easy to oxidize iodide to iodine. That's why conc H2SO4 or HCl is added to the media, and 10 ml of 10% Ki solution is added. This is tighter against the hypo solution till the solution becomes stray yellow. So up till this step, your solution will be a lightish brown or dark brown solution. So you will tighter it against the hypo solution and your solution will become yellow. It can be by adding few drops only. After this, you will add 3 drops of starch solution until the solution green color appears. So the end point in this titration will be blue to green, lightish green color. That is because of the chromium ions, Cr3 plus ion that are formed in the course of the reaction. You will repeat this titration for concordant value. So now let's see what are the reactions that are occurring. You are using a primary standard of K2Cr2O7 in acidic media and you have added Ki solution so that iodide converts with the help of an oxidizing agent to iodine. And in the course of the reaction, Cr3 plus ions are produced which show green color, but the green color is very light. Iodine will overpower the color and show blue color solution when starch is added. So to this solution, starch is added and it will show blue color to you at this point. When you will titrate it against hypo solution, this iodine will get converted to iodide and starch has to show its color, that is colorless. But as chromium 3 plus ions are present in the mixture, the end point will be green instead of colorless. So for the standardization of hypo solution, the end point will be, or the color change will be, blue to green, and the green will be light green color. Okay class, keep that in mind. The calculation for it is N hypo, that is normality of hypo solution, will be equals to normality of K2Cr2O7. That will be known to you because you have yourself prepared this solution. This is the primary standard into volume of K2Cr2O7, that is 20 ml you have used, divided by volume of hypo solution, which you can see from the burette. So by this way you can calculate the normality of the hypo solution, and now the hypo solution is standardized as you know its concentration. Okay, the next question to this titration is, how is the amount of dissolved oxygen present in the given sample calculated? How you calculate the amount of dissolved oxygen? So for that you have to prepare the water sample in a different kind of a stoppered bottle, because you don't want outer air to interfere with the reactions. You take the water sample in 300 ml stopper water, and the water sample is filled up till the brim, that is up to the top. No air should be present in the bottle. Then you add 2 ml MnSO4 solution and 3 ml alkaline Ki solution. Here you have taken alkaline Ki solution. In the standardization you have taken 10% Ki solution. Matlab that means that solution is aqueous in nature, but here it is alkaline in nature. These solutions are stopped and mixed. Well, allow it to stand. You allow it to stand. After 2 minutes you again shake the bottle and let the PPT, there will be a PPT forming, let the PPT settle. This PPT is of brown color. After the PPT is settled, you will add conc H2SO4 solution till all the PPT get dissolved. The acidic media will basically do what? It will start forming or liberating iodine from the iodide solution. When you provide the acidic media or H2SO4 to the solution. Now, as you have prepared this solution, now you have added H2SO4 also. This solution is brown in color. From this solution you will pipette out 50 ml of the solution, and you will titrate it against standardized hypo solution, which you have standardized it with the help of a primary standard, that is K2Cr2O7, till yellow color is observed. Again the same thing you are doing it here also. The brownish color is converted to the yellow color by titrating it with hypo solution before adding the indicator. As you will achieve the yellow color, you will add 3 drops of starch solution, and you will continue the titration till disappearance of this blue color. As when you add the starch solution, obviously iodine will react with the starch and form blue color, and you will titrate continuously till this blue color disappear. You will repeat the concordant value is achieved. Now these are the reactions what are happening. MnSO4 will give Mn ions, which will react with the dissolved oxygen present in the water sample. This is the alkaline nature of Ki. You have added alkaline Ki, so OH negative will be present, and this kind of brown PPT will be formed, that is MnOOH whole twice. This O is basically due to dissolved oxygen. So from 16 gram of oxygen, only 8 gram of oxygen is being consumed in 1 molecule of MnOOH whole twice. You have to remember this. From 1 mole, half mole of oxygen has been consumed. If you see by molecule, 1 molecule is consuming, and you are getting 1 in 1 molecule of MnOOH whole twice, right? This will react. Now you have added Ki is also there in the solution, and you have now added conc H2SO4. So the media is now becoming, instead of alkaline, it is becoming acidic. Now this iodide that is present in the solution will react with this brown PPT and will be forming or will be oxidizing to I2. This I2 will be liberated, and the brown PPT is getting disappeared as Mn2 plus ions are formed. And instead of that brown PPT, now as iodide is getting converted to iodine, brown color solution will be seen. This brown color solution is when titrated with sodium thiosulfate or hypo solution, it will form again iodide ion, and the blue black color of starch iodine complex will disappear. the calculation will be something like this. The normality of dissolved oxygen will be equals to normality of hyposolution, that is known to you as you have standardized the hyposolution into volume of hyposolution, that is known by the burette volume, divide by the volume of dissolved oxygen taken. You have taken 50 ml of the dissolved oxygen. The strength or amount of the dissolved oxygen present will be equals to normality of the dissolved oxygen into the equivalent weight of the oxygen. As you have seen that only one atom of oxygen is being consumed in 1 molecule of MnOOH whole twice. So you will be using 8 grams into 1000 to convert it into mg per liter. Right, class? So this is the way the amount of dissolved oxygen can be calculated. The next question to this titration is name the indicator used. The indicator used in this titration is charge. And what is the endpoint of this titration? The endpoint to this titration is that the blue color of charge iodine complex that is formed by basically the starch traps the iodine in its structure. So the blue color is observed and this color changes to colorless. That means the charge is now free as the iodine is now consumed to form iodide ion. What is the formula of the compound that precipitated as brown PPT? MnOOH whole twice is the compound that is precipitated as brown PPT. MnSO4 basically consume the oxygen from the dissolved oxygen and form MnOOH whole twice as the brown PPT. The next question is, what is the problem that could arise by using tap water? What will happen if you use tap water? The tap water basically contain chlorine also in addition to oxygen. So this chlorine also has a capability of reacting with iodide ion to form I2. So you want to estimate dissolved oxygen present in a water sample, but due to the presence of chlorine, the dissolved oxygen will be added on, the volume will be added on, so the result will be inaccurate because oxygen will also convert Ki to I2 and chlorine will also convert Ki to I2. The amount of I2 you are calculating, so this will give you inaccurate results. The next question is, assuming the water sample contain oxygen, right? What color is observed when conc H2SO4 is added to water and why? So you have added all your chemicals. Now if you add H2SO4 to it, what is the color you will see? You will see a brown color solution. And why? It is because of the liberating iodine gas. So it is trapped in the water only, that's why it is giving brown color. When adding chemical to water, why should the tip of the graduated dropper be placed under the surface of the water in the bottle? This should be done because if this is not done, you will introduce oxygen that is present in the air, that to the reaction, as if the chemicals are not dipped inside the water sample, they can react with the oxygen in the air. Hence the oxygen in the air will also get fixed in the water sample. That's why this is one of the precautions, that the tip of the pipette or the dropper should be inside the water sample, not outside the water sample. Right? Next question. Why it is important to shake the bottle vigorously after adding various chemical? Why you shake the bottle? We shake the bottle twice, right? Why we do that? So that all the dissolved oxygen that is present in the water should react with this reagent, right? Because it is dissolved in water, it will be extracted by the chemicals. So if you shake the bottle, it will ensure that everything is reacted. Now the next question is, why must the bottle be completely filled? The bottle should be completely filled to ensure that there is no air. No air means no oxygen of air present in the bottle, so that the level of DO will only or oxygen will only be because of the water, not because of the air. Hence you will get correct result, else you will get incorrect results if there is some air present in the water sample. By chance, if some bubbles you see in your water sample, then also you have to discard the whole sample and you have to make the sample again, because those bubbles can also show you incorrect results because of the oxygen that is present in the air. Okay class, I think these two experiments are also clear to you with all the viva questions that can be asked to you. For more questions and for more practicals, be aligned, be attached, and subscribe the channel, and basically like the video. And if you have any doubts, you can just comment in the comment box. I will get back to you. Thank you for watching.